Welcome to another math lesson. I know what you're thinking. You're like, where are Mr. Jackson's kids? Well, sadly, they couldn't be here today. Just kidding! We're all here! You guys ready for another math lesson? Alright, let's start off with some jokes. Let's get ready, guys. Bring it in. Oh, okay. Alright, here we go. We got 3 jokes for you today. Joke number 1, want to hold that up, Emmy? Comes to you from, I believe this is Caleb. Why should you never get into a fight with an angle? The answer, because it's got great reflex. Reflex is a type of angle. Good joke, Caleb. Joke number 2. This is another very witty joke. Let's see if you guys can get this one. Joke number 2 comes to you from Ava. Why was the fraction apprehensive about marrying the decimal? Because he would have to convert. Fractions convert to decimals. Fractions convert to decimals, decimals to fractions. Convert. Good jokes, guys. Last joke, this special joke, is coming to you from my son Spencer. This is his joke. Why couldn't the bird fly? Do you want to say the answer?
Because its wings were too weak.
Because its wings were weak. Poor bird. We hope that bird's wings gets better. All right.
It will never get
So today's lesson, we're going to be talking about how to use a protractor. This is my big protractor. So have your protractor handy, because I'm going to be teaching you how to use this properly. You guys ready for a lesson? All right, here we go. Alright guys, here we go. We're going to do a lesson on measuring angles. This is really important because some people will have trouble using the protractor, which is very normal. And I would say there's 2 key things to using a protractor. One is knowing how to line the protractor up properly with your angle, and the other is to read the protractor correctly. So we'll start with, here's an angle, and remember, this little symbol means they want you to measure this inside angle where these 2 lines are meeting. So on the protractor, and I got this nice big protractor that'll hopefully help demonstrate better. The bottom point, right in the middle, is where you want to line it up with where the 2 lines meet. This is called the vertex. So you want to line it up where the 2 lines meet, right in the middle. So that's the first important thing. On the smaller protractors that some of you guys might have, it might be a little bit up from the bottom where the middle line meets coming down with the horizontal middle line. So hopefully that makes sense, lining up the protractor with either right at the bottom of your protractor or where that vertical line and the horizontal 90-degree line meets on these ones. Okay, so I'm going to line mine up right with the bottom. The middle goes right on that vertex. And the other key thing is that the 0 line goes right against one of the angle lines, or the lines. Okay, so once I have it lined up like that, and again, you want to be very accurate to line it up as perfectly as you can. So once I have it lined up correctly, the 0 line is right where the 1 line is. Then all I have to do is read on the protractor where the other line is coming out. Okay, so the only thing that makes this a little bit difficult is there's 2 numbers here. There's a number that's right around 150 and another one that's around 30. So you have to know which one to pick. So the way you pick the correct one is you count up from 0, because that's where you're starting. So 0, 10, 20, 30, and you want to be as accurate as possible. I would say this one's a little bit below 30. About 28 degrees. So then when you take the protractor off, Some people like to write it in the middle here, like 28 degrees. You don't have to do it like that. You can write it, if there's an answer line, you can write it down below, 28 degrees. And then it's always a good idea also to check if you've done it correctly. One way to check is to say, well, is it an acute angle? So let's say you misread it and you just quickly went, well, it's about 150 degrees. You should know that an acute angle cannot be more than 90 degrees. So that's example one. I'm gonna go check on my baby who's playing over here, and I'll be back with another example. Okay, so here's another example. This one's a little bit different because one of the lines isn't like perfectly horizontal along the bottom. It's kind of a little bit of a different view of the angle. And again, they want you to measure this inside angle. And we're going to be sticking today with angles that are either acute or obtuse or right angles. So we're going to be sticking to those types today because those are probably the most common. So again, I'm going to take my protractor and I'm going to put the middle point right where the two lines meet. So at this point called the vertex. And then I want to line up the zero line with one of the lines. Okay, so I'm going to put that zero line there. So once I got it lined up, and again, I want to be very accurate, a little bit harder for me because my board's not super stable. But once I have it lined up with the zero line here, then I want to read where this line comes out. Now again, if I read the numbers, I might say, well, it's about 70. Hopefully you guys can see that, 70. But again, start at 0. This is where you're starting. This is your starting point where you've lined up. So start here at 0. If you go all the way around from 0, 10, 20, 30, you go past 90, past the right angle, 100, 110, and then it comes out right around 115. So reading the right number, about 115 degrees. My protractor is not super stable, so I should check it again. It's probably actually a bit less, about 111, 112 degrees. Okay, so just going to write that in. So I was at about 111 degrees. Now, one thing, I could use my little protractor too, and I know this is really hard for you guys to see. The difference with this little one is, and most of yours probably too, you can't line it up right at the bottom, so that that's why it's clear as well. So you line it up with that zero line. So the one line has to be right on the zero line. And then it works the same way. 0, right around 111, 112 degrees. One other thing I wanted to show you as well is I lined it up here on this line. I could also line it up on this line. Make the zero line there. Okay, so again, if I line it up here with the 0, 0 here, and then again I have to go around 10, 20, 30, all the way around, and again, comes out around at 111, 110 degrees. Okay, so there's example number 2. Okay, here's our next example. So again, this angle, it's a small angle, and one thing that's really helpful when you're trying to be accurate and measure angles when you're getting used to it, you should kind of say, well, what type of angle is it? So most of you probably know that if you can tell, this is an acute angle. When there's small angles, less than 90 degrees, it's an acute angle. So if it's an acute angle, your answer has to be somewhere below 90 degrees. So that can help sometimes when you're reading the numbers on the protractor. Okay, so again, I'm going to line up the bottom middle of my protractor with the points where the two lines meet, and then the other line where the two lines meet, and then this line, the zero line, would go right along that bottom line of the angle. Okay, and then once I have it lined up well, I have to read the numbers. So if I could just go right away to the numbers and say, well, it's probably about 20 degrees or 19 degrees. If I want to be sure, make sure you start at that 0 and then just go 10, 20, yeah, around 19 degrees when you're measuring it. So this one, about 19 degrees. One other important thing when you're drawing angles, which we'll do at another time, you always want your lines to be longer than your protractor because it makes it easier to read. So if I have really short lines, if my lines are really short, this would be the same angle, but it would be a lot harder for me to read my measurement because I can't even see the lines. So make sure when you're drawing angles, you have longer lines to measure from. Okay, so this will be our last example. Hopefully you're getting the hang of measuring angles, and I know it'd be way easier if I could come around and help you with your protractors to line them up, but hopefully you'll get the right idea. So again, I'm going to take my protractor and I'm going to line up the middle of the protractor where the two lines meet. It's called the vertex. And then I'm going to line up my zero line right along one of the lines. So I'll do it like this. I line it up correctly. Then I can start counting where the numbers all the way to where the other line comes out. And I want to make sure I read the right number. So don't just go right to the numbers and read it quickly because you might read the wrong number. So you can start at 0, all the way around, past 90, so it's an obtuse angle, 100, 110, about 119 degrees. So the other thing I wanted to show you with this one is most of the time when you line up your protractor, you line it up along with the bottom line. You could also line it up with this top line. You just have to, if you turn it around, you have to, again, line it up with that line. Zero's there, all the way around to about 118, 119 degrees. So that's your vertex, all the way around 119 degrees. So either way gives you the same answer, whatever line you line it up with.